North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a rare in-person meeting today, smiling for the cameras as they toured a Russian space facility and discussed future military cooperation. It comes as the White House is warning about a potential arms deal between the two U.S. adversaries. After more than a year and a half of fighting in Ukraine, Putin appears to now be turning to North Korea to resupply his country's munitions stockpile. And for his part, Kim offered his full and unconditional support for what he described as Russia's, quote, sacred fight. In return, North Korea is looking for Russia's help to develop its own military capabilities. And joining me now from the White House is John Kirby, Coordinator for Strategic Communications at the National Security Council. Thank you for being on today. I want to start with North Korea and this meeting we just saw between Kim Jong-un and President Putin in Russia. Kim Jong-un said he wants to transform what's been a friendly relationship into what he called an unbreakable strategic partnership. Now, obviously, he's a fan of that kind of rhetoric, but how concerning is that kind of talk to the United States? And looking at the intelligence available to you, what's the biggest takeaway from this meeting?
Difficult to say what the big takeaway is from the meeting right now, since they haven't really announced anything in terms of specific negotiations or arms deals. We're going to watch that very, very closely. We've been warning about this potential arms deal for quite some time, and that's why, because we are concerned about any capabilities that might be given to North Korea or bought by North Korea that could help destabilize the peninsula, or anything that could go the other way. And Mr. Putin to make it easier for him to kill innocent Ukrainians. Now, as for this strategic partnership, I think that much remains to be seen here. These are not two countries that play well with others, and they are not two countries that have any kind of long-standing history with cooperation between the two of them. They are pretty isolated on the world stage. So we'll see exactly where this goes, but I can promise you this. If North Korea moves forward with some sort of arms deal to help Russia in Ukraine, or consequently get help from Russia, there'll be repercussions for North Korea, and certainly we're going to continue to hold Russia accountable as well.
What can those repercussions be? I mean, you mentioned the idea that these are two of the most isolated countries on the planet already. Yeah. What else could we do to Russia or North Korea to punish that kind of behavior?
Well, we'll certainly look at additional sanctions, enforcing already the sanctions that are in place, and looking at additional enforcement mechanisms, the possibility of looking at additional sanctions, both unilaterally and with our UN partners. It's important to remember that if there is an arms deal between these two countries, it violates UN Security Council resolutions that Russia themselves signed up to many years ago. So there's a great irony here. We'll look at options inside the UN as well. You know, we got the General Assembly coming up next week. And then lastly, we're going to continue to call it like we see it. It was weeks ago when we said we thought that these two countries were going to be working together on some sort of transfer of arms to Russia. A week or two ago, we said we thought there could be leader-level meetings. We're going to continue to call it out as we see it, and make sure that that they can't do this in a non-transparent way.
Now, the White House has definitely been out in front on this. I think it's pretty clear what the Russians could want from the North Koreans. But what do the North Koreans want from Russia on this? I mean, for Kim, it's a coup just to have a meeting like this with another world leader, right? But what are the takeaways for North Korea other than elevating themselves on the world stage?
Well, again, it really depends on what kind of arms deal they come up with. We don't know exactly what sort of trade space they have with one another. We know that Russia wants, at the very minimum, artillery shells, because this is a gunfight in the Donbass in southern Ukraine. It's possible he'll want other munitions from North Korea. It is certainly possible that North Korea will look for military capabilities, technology, intelligence sharing, that kind of thing, that will boost their defensive and offensive capabilities on the Korean Peninsula. You know, Mr. Kim keeps shooting off ballistic missiles. There were 2 more short-range ballistic missiles he fired off today. This is a burgeoning program that he wants to improve. Russia has ballistic missile capabilities, so it's entirely possible that that could be one avenue that he's looking at.
The Chinese don't like the idea of a North Korea with a strong, ballistic missile program right next door. Is this an area where we can work with them?
We know that Beijing has probably more influence in Pyongyang than any other nation on earth. And as to say, it's not perfect leverage that they have, because Kim Jong-un spurns a lot even from Beijing. But Beijing does have influence in Pyongyang, and we would encourage them to continue to use that influence to curb these appetites by Kim Jong-un, and to try to help us all try to achieve a more stable Korean Peninsula. To date, China's not been willing to do that. They are not enforcing all the sanctions that are in place. Sanctions, again, that they signed up to through the UN, and they have not put enough pressure on Kim Jong-un. We'd like to see him do that. I'm
starting to feel like unenforced sanctions is a theme here. I want to talk about Iran a little bit. You've said that the money that the administration is unfreezing rather, from Iran in exchange for these hostages coming back will be used for humanitarian purposes. And you've outlined some of the ways in which that can be enforced or at least monitored. But $6 billion is still $6 billion, right? If it's money that the Iranian government doesn't have to spend on these humanitarian needs, doesn't that free that money up for them to spend it on other things, right? I mean, talk to me about the controls that exist on this money and why the Iranians can't just sort of move money around in a way that makes this $6 billion free for them to use how they see fit.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts here. First of all, the controls you talked about, they have to specifically ask for withdrawals from this account to be used for legitimate humanitarian purposes, medical equipment, medicine, food, that kind of thing. And that money will be administered through the Qatari National Bank. We will have visibility on those transactions. We can cut off those transactions if we don't think they're going to try to cheat. We can certainly refreeze those funds if we continue to see the regime try to cheat against this. But it's important to remember that the regime doesn't get any of this money. When they submit a request and it's legitimate and we agree that it should be supported on behalf of the Iranian people, it'll be going to vendors who will purchase that equipment or that material or that food and get it into Iran that way independently. The mullahs, the regime, has no direct contact with these funds. It goes directly to the Iranian people. And again, we have total control over whether or not we want to refreeze that or not.
So it's functionally, the Qataris are acting like an escrow account here, essentially, where the Iranians don't ever touch this money directly. Is that a fair way to understand this?
It is correct. The Iranians will not be able to touch this funding directly. Now, look, your other question was about, well, it could free up funds for other things.
Sure.
We are already putting a lot of pressure on Iran for their destabilizing activities, support to terrorism, maritime shipping attacks, sending drones to Russia to use against Ukraine. We will not hesitate to continue to leverage more sanctions, more pressure to hold Iran accountable for their destabilizing behavior if they continue to perform that. We've even boosted our military presence in the Arabian Gulf because of the attacks on maritime shipping. So the president is going to use a wide range of tools here to continue to hold Iran accountable for this destabilizing behavior. And we have no reason to suspect that they're just automatically going to stop doing these bad things.
Right.
So we're going to keep that pressure on.
And I suspect what would help the president is having confirmed people in the top of his military leadership. I want to ask you about Senator Tuberville's holds on military promotions. He was on this program yesterday, and he's really trying to put the onus on Democrats to find a way to work around his holds. I want to play for you what he told us yesterday.
We could do all the top brass in probably less than 2 weeks. I'm not holding up all the nominations. I'm just holding up a group at a time. We could do one this afternoon in 2 hours, but Schumer won't bring it to the floor.
Now, I cover the Senate in my day job. I understand the concern about creating a precedent here for agreeing to these tactics by Tuberville here. But at what point does the national security need outweigh the desire for Senate Democrats to win the argument here and have Tuberville fold on his own?
The pressure really needs to be on the Republican side here. His Republican colleagues, they're the ones that they got to pull him aside here and tell him to knock this off. And he wasn't being honest, by the way, in his interview, saying he's not holding them all up. He's holding up more than 300 generals and admirals. Every single one that gets nominated gets put in this blanket hold by Senator Tuberville, and it's absolutely having an effect on our national security and on our readiness.
Have you heard anything from Senate Republicans or Republicans that you talk to suggest they are feeling that pressure and are ready to apply it to him? Because I'm not hearing a lot of it.
No, I would agree with you. We have not heard that. Now, some Senate Republicans will say that they don't like his tactics.
Right.
They agree with his concern about the policy that DOD is pursuing, but they don't like his tactics. But they're not doing anything. They're not lifting a finger to put enough pressure on him. This one senator who is holding up all these generals and admirals from moving on.
All right, John Kirby, thank you for your time and for your expertise.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.